We're all behaving really well here at Radio Ranch because Kevin Haugen is going to be interviewing some folks from the Beaver Dam Police Department. We go to the Daily Dodge TV Center at 100 Bill McCullum Way, and here is Kevin Haugen with today's community comment.
Afternoon. Welcome into today's community comment. As Jeff introduced for us here before the program got underway, our guests on community comment this afternoon are with the Beaver Dam Police Department. It's my pleasure to welcome into the Daily Dodge TV studio. This afternoon we have with us Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson, as well as the top cop with the Beaver Dam Police Department, Chief John Kreitziger. Thank you both so much for coming in today.
Good. It feels good to be here.
Glad Good afternoon.
Beautiful weather today. Can't complain.
It's not too hot. Nice. Yes, perfect.
Perfect day.
If we could keep it this way for like 3 months, I would be fine with that. No snow. It's not 90 and humid. Just right here. Perfect.
Can't complain about the weather.
Yep.
Also streaming today's program from the Daily Dodge TV studio. So be sure to head to Daily Dodge, the YouTube page, Daily Dodge, and check us out there if you want to see us in person. We didn't have a chance to bring in any sort of special police equipment. Maybe next time.
We could if you really want.
We do have the full
break down the
gear.
vest today. And, we all
You don't have your body camera.
I don't because I wasn't expecting an incident. I should have been ready. Today's my off day.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. So you could have a camera recording the camera.
Yeah, that's
very
philosophical.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
It's a paradox.
All right, so we do have a lot to get to on the program this afternoon. If you do have a question for members of the Beaver Dam Police Department, you can call in at 887-9595, or that's also our text line if you want to get in a question to the police department. Also, you can reach out to 885-4446 during today's program to ask questions of the Beaver Dam Police Department. But the reason why the chief is here today is is it the usual one-time appearance? I feel like that's been the case the last couple of years. We don't get you on a whole lot.
I try to get here more often, but at least once a year.
I have to drag him in. Like, come on, it's been a year. Let's go.
Once a year is always good, just to kind of overview what happened the previous year and just kind of make sure there aren't any questions or so.
Yeah, nice. Fantastic. Well, that is the reason you're here today, Chief, is to go over the annual report. Now, is that fresh, hot off the presses here just a little bit ago, or when was that completed?
We got it done in March, and then we presented it to the Police and Fire Commission. Then I forwarded also on to all the alderpersons for them to review.
Fantastic. Now, we didn't have really a chance to go in depth beforehand, so a lot of this will be new to me during our conversation about the annual report, but I did learn that there really isn't any major differences or things to note in the annual report. Chief, could you just give us a very brief summary review of the report and just kind of what stood out to you? And there's a couple things we'll get into in a little bit, but just kind of a brief overview of this year's report.
Okay, this is a 2023 annual report, so this will be everything that occurred in 2023. And our annual report for me is I get all the data from the FBI, and then I get it from our municipal court, so I kind of know what direction we're going to go, kind of what kind of programs we might need, so maybe some extra patrol, kind of gives me some direction. The data kind of might drive some changes over the next year, so that's why we have this report. That's why we give this report once a year. It kind of highlights our department on all the things we did over the year. So the first part of the report, we just got some staff changes, and we got normal staff changes like a lot of departments do, and we go through the same concerns or issues other departments have as retaining and getting officers. But we did pretty good this year. We've been fortunate enough to be able to take them from other agencies or smaller agencies and get them recruited to come to work for us for obvious reasons. Then we go into the report, just gives you some shift rosters with some names and times of their shifts, and then an organizational chart that comes with the next. And then we actually get into some of the actual numbers. First of all, we grab some of this data from the municipal courts on adult citations and juvenile citations. We always break them down between them two. So I usually like the 5-year average to kind of see where we're going And I like to look for some outliers to see why we have those big changes. So with adult and juvenile citations, we're right in our 5-year average. We haven't made any real changes. There was a little bit of change during COVID, a little reduction, but then there was a little increase right after that. So we're right in that average for citations. We keep track of parking citations and the number of total dollar amount we collect for parking tickets and citations, and that we're right in the average. The actual total amount of citations were maybe down a little bit, but we're not driven on the number of citations. So there is no requirements for citations. We don't keep track of the numbers. I don't want officers to be keeping track of the number of citations we write or how many citations or what type of citations we write. We just keep track of that at once a year just to see, gives us a guidance of where we are this year as far as the numbers go. So then we get to the top citations that we issued in municipal court. I usually take the top 5 and then we do some averaging. And the 4 out of the 5 have been the top 5 in 22. They're still the top 5 in 23, but retail theft was the one that kind of stuck out. That one kind of moved, was not in the top 5 last year, but is in the top number 1 this year as far as both juveniles and adults.
So a big cause of that, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to hit on this. Big cause of that is we now have our retailers with decent, adapted loss prevention employees in place, and they're working full-time, multiple people in those positions, and they're really good at catching people. So, and they are reporting that to us when it's appropriate, and that's why you're seeing those citations and arrests go up with that. Is we've got just an excellent bunch of individuals that are good at catching thieves, and they are doing their best to essentially keep as many shoplifters accountable as possible. So,
yeah. We'll hit on more on the retail thefts and some
Sure.
of the efforts that the police department's doing to curb that, and more on the report in a bit. But again, the number to get into the program today is 887-9595. You can also call 885-4446. I do believe we have a caller on the line, so I want to head to the phones and say welcome to Community Comment.
Yes, hello.
You're on the air.
Okay, I have a question. I understand there's golf carts for sale at Annabelle's, and on the sign it says fully street legal. Is that true?
Golf carts are not legal on the streets of the city of Beaver Dam, on the
that's what I
streets.
thought.
So,
Yeah, I was curious as to why that sign is there saying that it's fully street legal.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what they are advertising. That might be something where we need to stop by and take a look at. But yeah, as of the most recent update with the ATV, UTV ordinances, the golf cart, and perhaps they're not golf carts, perhaps they actually are UTVs that look like golf carts, but your standard propane or electric golf cart is not a UTV, not an ATV, because it doesn't meet the statutory requirements that are listed as far as the engine and safety requirements and the distance of the wheels and what they're capable of doing and the safety stuff. That may be. So maybe they look like they're golf carts, but they are actually UTVs. So that is something we got to look into.
Play vehicles of the
I'll
statute?
have to stop at Annabelle's.
A golf cart is not. No, it's not.
But a play vehicle, though, is it considered a play vehicle under the statute?
That I don't know. I know specifically golf carts are mentioned that they're not street legal. And the classic, like if you were to go to Old Hickory, and drive around their golf cart, that's not legal to have on the street here in Beaver Dam.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Absolutely, thank you. And I'll maybe look into that. Maybe I'll send you an email because I have to take a look at those golf carts. Maybe they're not really golf carts. Maybe they are UTVs. So I'm not trying to step on Annabelle's dealer's feet or anything like that. But if the general definition of what we think of as a golf cart is not street legal. Sure.
Yeah, to add on that a little bit, we have been looking at a low-speed vehicle ordinance. We were going to combine that with our neighborhood electric vehicles because right now we have a ordinance for neighborhood electric vehicles, and we were going to combine that with low-speed vehicles. And the low-speed vehicles are all approved by DOT, and sometimes people get those mixed up has golf carts because
Yes.
they look similar to a golf cart.
Yeah.
But they have requirements that they have to meet for DOT. So
Correct.
they're regulated by DOT with a license. So right now, we're working on that with the attorneys. We just had a meeting a couple weeks ago. So we're hoping to get that ordinance together and get it in front of the council to debate and decide whether we're going to move forward with low-speed vehicles. But they are totally different than golf carts, and golf carts are totally separate from the low-speed vehicle and are also going to be illegal with this low-speed vehicle and neighborhood electric vehicle ordinance that we're putting together right now.
So we may get some updates on that front here in the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks when it comes to low-speed vehicles. And
In actual changes in the ordinance, that'll
Correct.
be specifically
We won't
addressed.
change the actual UTV and ATV ordinance. We're just going to change the neighborhood electric vehicle because that kind of works together with the low-speed vehicle. So the attorney said it would probably be best to put that all together into one and clean that up.
Gotcha. And we'll chat. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit of time in the program, later in the program, to go into some of the ATV, UTV ordinance. Really, that was the bulk of the time that people will be out riding their ATVs, driving their UTVs around the city. It wasn't really in place until late in the fall, early-ish winter, so really didn't have an opportunity for most people to get theirs out quite yet. So we'll see an uptick in those as we get closer to summer. So again, thank you for the caller who called into the program. Again, that number is 887-9595 or 885-4446. And before we talked to our caller on the program today, Chief and Lieutenant, you were spending a little bit of time talking about retail thefts, the uptick that you guys seen in those here in the city of Beaver Dam, and the efforts that the businesses have been doing to report these. I mean, I feel like this has been an issue. It hasn't just all of a sudden people have been, doing more retail thefts in the last year or so. It's just, you had mentioned more policies, procedures in place to report these. Is there anything that you guys are doing, patrols or calling, secret shopper type of things to help curb this issue as well?
No, that's an excellent question. So the retailers themselves have, they're paying people to actually go out and catch shoplifters, and they're reporting those crimes to us. So we're doing our best to support them. We're having Officer Graham Rindo actually interact with those teams. And we're actually, he's interacting with them several times a week just because of the amount of call volume that we have up there. We used to have formal meetings. However, it's at the point right now where it's not even necessary because we're just always there, So with retail theft, it's a problem that's always there, and you don't know until you look for it. So when they put their program in place and they had these people hired, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, boom, there's tons of retail thefts that are just popping up on the screen several times a day, especially around the Christmas season as shoppers are in the stores. So that problem is starting to decline because we are now getting the message out that they are catching people and that you are going to get in trouble if you shoplift, and I think that's why we're seeing a slight downward curve, if you will, especially now in 2024. It's starting to go down a little bit because they're actually solving the problem. It's actually cleaning up the store, and people now know that they're going to get a big fat $313 ticket for stealing a little bit of stuff. It's not worth it, or they're going to end up getting a misdemeanor or even felony charge, depending on if it's something big and very substantial. So to answer your question, we don't do a whole lot of secret shopping, but when they call us and they have an issue, we support them in any way we can.
And it really, go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's the most important thing here is we see it's an issue, we know it's an issue, is we get an officer that's kind of a liaison, he's there to kind of guide them, help them a little bit. They have questions, we can work with them a little bit. It's kind of having that cooperative effort between them and us because we don't want to deal with it all the time either. So to have that relationship is basically what we're trying to do to get people to work with us on the problem. So together we can work on the problem. So that's our main goal.
Yeah. And the big thing I feel like is just getting the education piece out there to the public so they know what type of fines and punishments they are facing. Like you mentioned, they just take something that's maybe worth only $20, $25, and next thing you know, they're facing a several $100 fine, and the risk is not, or the reward is not worth the risk a lot of times in these circumstances. So it's getting that information out there, letting them know what happens if you do get caught and busted, that it's not worth it to do.
And it's a lot of the internal policies and procedures that these businesses have too that affect them, such as a ban from the store, trespassing type thing, and then the additional civil fines that they get on top of the criminal citation or the criminal charge or a citation.
Yeah.
There's a state law on the books, and it's been on at least, I want to say, the late 70s or early 80s, which is a civil recourse law that's built into the retail theft statutes. So the amount of time that those loss prevention associates have spent watching that shoplifter, any damage to the merchandise, any expenses. So, like, even if they had to take, back in the day, it was a Polaroid photograph. Now it's digital. But, you know, if they had to burn a DVD, all those expenses get added up, and they can essentially make a demand to that suspect to pay them back civilly, and if they don't pay, they can actually take them to court and sue them for the damages, the wages, everything that retail theft actually cost them. And the state actually rolled in a penalty in certain cases, depending on what it is, and there's a limit on it, but they can actually penalize that person civilly. And they actually do recuperate a little bit of funds and actually get out ahead, which is appropriate because they are the victims, they're the ones who are being wronged. So it's a little bit of recourse, and it's also another deterrent to anybody who's out there stealing.
Another piece of this that we've talked about in past community comments too, and we talk about citations, fines, bans from stores as a punishment. There's a threshold if you steal a certain amount of money that it becomes a felony at a certain point,
Yes.
and then you're looking at much more serious punishments, and even prison. Depending upon if it's habitual or the amount stolen, what was stolen, you could look at far more serious punishments in those cases.
Right, exactly. So what you're referring to is the $500 limit.
Yep.
Okay. So state legislature a couple of years ago passed a law stating that if someone steals the retail value of $500 or more, it's automatically a felony. And we're not going to issue a citation for that. We will arrest them, take them to jail, and they will have to see a judge the next day and post bond based on what that judge decides is an appropriate amount. So that is to help combat organized retail theft, or just that major hit where somebody, it used to be TVs were really expensive. Now they're not. But perfect example is putting a large item like a TV in a cart and walking out the front door. What's to stop someone doing that? Well, being a convicted felon hopefully will, and I think that people understand that, like, okay, tap the brakes here. Think about what you're doing. This is major. This is not like a traffic ticket. This is, you are going to have a criminal record. And every time you go through a job interview, every time you go purchase a gun, every time you go to vote, this is going to affect what you do. I mean, you could have a probation and parole agent that you have to check in with every month, every week. It's got an effect. So that $500 limit is a felony. Anything less than that can be charged as a misdemeanor, and that's where we use our discretion as police officers.
And you're talking about the stats and the numbers. That was just for citations.
That's
now,
just
if I
the
pull
tickets.
out the FBI's report for crime that we have to report to them every month on a criminal end. Retail theft is also very high, a 69.7% increase there. So we're seeing on the criminal end and the citation end on retail theft, we're seeing big increases.
Correct. And
We do have that dollar amount that is now becoming the criminal also increasing too.
Right. And that problem has always been there, and the reason why it's so high is because they have people in place that are finding the problem now and addressing it. So
it always existed. It just had the process and the procedures are finally in place to report these and get the people who are committing these crimes cited, fined, charged in some cases.
Exactly. So real quick, just to finish up so you can do your annual report, but the misdemeanor is something that we have some discretion. So if it's a first offense and we're talking with someone who's like legitimately like, hey, you caught me, I'm really sorry, I should not have done that. What am I thinking? We might go with that citation. If it's a second time offense, we're probably not going to go with that citation again. We're going to go with the misdemeanor. If someone steals $400 worth of stuff, chances are we're going to charge them with the misdemeanor. We also, when we have that misdemeanor arrest, we have a lot of discretion of what happens then. We can, essentially take them down to the station and release them to a responsible person. We can refer those criminal charges, or we can take them to the Dodge County Jail and they have to post bond before they can get out or see a judge. So, I mean, we've got a lot of options there, and I'm telling you, it has a lot to do with the level of cooperation from the suspect. So, anytime, even when you get pulled over, your level of cooperation will be taken into consideration, I think, for most offenses, depending on what it is. So,
yeah. Before I took us down that rabbit hole,
that was a good tangent, though. That was a good topic to talk about.
It is a good topic to talk about, but we also are here to talk about the annual report.
Yes,
Chief, was there anything else a part of that report?
Yeah, we could switch gears just so you kind of know where we're at for numbers for the theft, just to give you kind of an idea.
Yeah.
Criminal, we were at 152, and writing citations, we wrote 146. So we're pretty even
about
with
50-50.
criminal versus the citation end. So, yeah. And well, switching gears, another part of our annual report is we go through calls for service and we go through crashes. One of the things we have for calls for service is we have around 13 to 14,000 calls a year. That's not including all the follow-up and investigative that goes into a call after the call, but that's about average. We're averaging pretty close at the 6-year average of same calls. So we're not seeing a huge volume increase of calls for service either. Total crashes, since I've been the chief, I know in 14, we see a dramatic drop. And that's not just for the police, it's also the city with engineering and everything else that goes into crashes. But we used to have around 400 to 475 crashes a year. We are now down to 219, and each year we've been dropping every year. And we dropped that because of the city engineering versus also we have a grant that we go out and use that grant to target problem areas or areas where we see a lot of crashes. So
that's a huge number. I mean, think about it. It's almost half of what it used to be.
Correct.
You know,
so that's a big drop. There's a little weather in there, but if you look at even the last 5 years and you go with them numbers, 219 up to 283, and they keep going down a little bit every year. That's good. That's something to feel good about, feel proud about, that our crashes are going down.
Is that just more of an effort to communicate the safety of driving, or being more getting your presence out there? What is there something that you could attribute that to?
You know what? I'm going to take a stab at this, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think communication is important, but I don't think that's the major issue. I think that the chief is right there, where it's an engineering thing. So it means we're salting and sanding the roads appropriately. We had downtown redone back in 2015, 2016, if I'm not mistaken, where now we have turn lanes and stop and go lights that address how traffic is. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where the cars are getting guided appropriately to not be put into positions that put them at risk of an accident.
Yeah, we talk a lot about
even Gateway in front of Walmart. We
correct.
talked about that intersection of Gateway and County Highway B and Commercial and Francis Lane. That's all been redone as well, and we're seeing that reduction pay off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, not at all. You're the expert here, not me. But I feel like we talk a lot about distracted driving and people not paying attention causing accidents. But a lot of it is infrastructure improvements and having traffic diverted the right way, salting the roads and making sure those things are clear and up to date when we have bad weather, that type of thing. That does make a huge difference in curbing traffic crashes and helping those numbers improve.
That's a good working relationship with us at DPW. We have an excellent working relationship with them and engineering, and you talk about the intersection at Francis and Gateway. That is
my favorite
where we have
intersection.
the most intersections or most crashes again. Mm-hmm. I think I looked at the last 5 years. That's where we've had the most crashes. They've redone that intersection once already and did some realigning there, but I think it's because of that amount of traffic there and a lot of things going on in that intersection that confuse a lot of people.
That's a busy part of town.
Yeah. So,
Chief, is the annual report, is that available online for the public to look at if they want to take a look at the numbers?
yes. We put it on our website.
Yeah, so if you go, I'll get you the exact website. I believe it's cityofbeaverdam.com, but just one moment. You guys continue on. I'll get you the.
So it is online. So if anybody wants to take a deeper dive into the annual report, they have the ability to do so with the website that the lieutenant will inform us of in just mere seconds.
Yep, www.cityofbeaverdam.com.
There we go.
And then you click on departments, police, and it'll be a link right at the bottom of the page right there for our annual reports.
Fantastic. Well, again, we're chatting with members of the Beaver Dam Police Department here today on Community Comment. We have Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson. We're also joined by Chief John Kreitziger. We'd have to take a quick break. More Community Comment is coming up next.
TV studio at 100 Bill McCullum Way for more of today's Community Comment. Here's Kevin Haugen.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome back into today's Community Comment. Our guests here on our program this afternoon are with the Beaver Dam Police Department. We have with us here Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson and Chief John Kreitziger. Again, the phone number to get onto the program today is 887-9595. You can call or text that line, or you can get on at 885-4446 if you have a question for the police department while they are on our program this afternoon. We want to make sure we spend just a few more minutes wrapping up the annual report and any other things of note before we move on to our next topic here.
We were talking about crashes. Our injury crashes used to be in the 80s and 90s, and that's down to this year was 35. So that plays a little bit into it. But the last thing we're going to go through is just our criminal end of our criminal citations or criminal charges, not citations, criminal. And that we talked about already, retail theft. We got a little bit of fraud, simple assault has gone up, and drugs. So that's kind of where we stand a little bit on our actual criminal charges. So I think that's about it. And if you look at our annual report, if you don't want to, if numbers bore you, look at all the pictures we got. We got a lot of nice
There are
pictures.
a lot of nice pictures in there.
So somebody who doesn't like to read like the picture book,
Yeah,
they can make
yeah,
skim through
You
that.
can see a lot of nice pictures. It's always good to put a name with a face to see some of the officers and see some of the things they're doing in your community. We have all three of the school resource officers' pictures. We have our canines in there, and some of the different
National Night
events.
Out, Pepperfest.
Yeah,
It kind of highlights
Yeah.
the involvement with the
So
community.
just
in
go
there.
on there to look at the pictures at least.
And then again, that annual report is available on the City of Beaver Dam website. Just click on the, I believe, the police department tab, and just you have to maybe navigate one or two more pages,
Yep.
and you should wind up there. And maybe one more question before we move on. Chief, how long does it take to compile those numbers and statistics and put this annual report together? Is this something that takes several weeks, several months? How long does that process take?
Usually we have to wait till the end of the year, so we have to wait till January 1, and then we start working on it, and we usually have it done by the middle of March, not May. March, we usually have it done by.
Fantastic. So again, available online for those who want to find out more and dig through some of the statistics and maybe a little bit more detail. And again, there's some fun pictures to look at too if you're interested in putting some names to faces as well. But another thing that we want to hit on today here on Community Comment is something that we mentioned just briefly, I think as a part of the report here at the start of the program, and that's recruitment, staffing, hiring. I feel like anytime we have members of the any police agencies or fire departments on our program, that seems to be a very common topic that it gets brought up. And maybe if we want to start off, just I'll ask you guys, where is the Beaver Dam Police Department right now with staffing and its staffing levels?
So we are doing actually pretty good, especially when you compare us to other surrounding law enforcement agencies. So we're only down 2 out of 33 sworn officers. We have 31. So we are looking to hire those last 2 and get ourselves fully staffed. And like I said, we're doing well because there's other agencies out there that are hurting real bad, where they're in double digits. And granted, some of those departments are a little bit bigger, so double digits don't hurt as much. If we were in the double digits, we would be down to 2/3 of a workforce, and that's not good. But we're doing fairly well. However, we want to get those last 2 hired. Things have changed in law enforcement, and I've said this before. I know when I got hired, and it was 9 years ago, I went up against 63 other people. And I remember going into, let's say, the Fond du Lac Police Department, and I would sit down for the written test, and I'd enter a room with over 100 people that were all trying to be a police officer, and they had like one retirement for one spot. And it now it's not like that. I remember it even before, when I was going through, you talk to an officer like Jim Van Erum, who's been a cop for about 20 years now. He was going up against 250 people. Now we get about 12 applicants. That's it. So things have changed. We can talk until we're blue in the face about why that is, and I don't think it's benefits. I don't think it's pay. I don't think it's anything other than what people think of the police, and maybe even, I hate to say it, sorry, I know you're a member of the media, but I think we've gotten a bad rap in the media. And being a cop is hard work. There's no doubt about it. It's not an easy job. But with that, I want to just stress, Nothing in life that's easy is necessarily worthwhile. If you go and you put your good faith effort into this job, it's very rewarding. It's totally worth it. And that's why I encourage people who are listening, essentially to go out and apply. If this is something that you want to do, if you want to make a difference, if you want to help people, if you want to if you want to go home at the end of the day with a sense of accomplishment that you did something to make the world a better place, that's kind of where this job comes into play. Doesn't make it easy. Doesn't mean that it's the best paying job in the world, but it is a very rewarding career. And I think those are the type of people that we're looking for. Someone who's got character. I know the chief says character, character, character. That's the one thing he looks for. I'm sorry, the top three things he looks for are those three things. Yeah. And that's what it is. So that's who we're looking for. So if you know someone, whether they're a police officer or not, because we do lateral transfers. I want to highlight that in a minute, but we're looking for anybody who's got that character, who can talk to people, who can carry on a conversation, can creatively solve problems. It doesn't need to be a tactical special forces army guy. Okay, we're not looking for those people. We are looking for people that have a good head on their shoulders and that genuinely want to help and make a difference. If you look at our backgrounds of the last couple of police officers that we have hired people out of the private sector and into law enforcement. We had a gentleman who, Officer Andrew Burnett, he used to work with trucks. He would repair and go out into the field, and he would tow semi-trucks and repair them out in the field. That's where he came from. But he's got a good personality. He can solve problems. He's an excellent communicator, and this job was made for him. And now he's found his spot, his niche, and he's taken it and he's running with it. I went to college to be a teacher and realized that's not what I wanted to do. And then I worked at Shopco, catching shoplifters, doing retail theft. That's how I know a little bit about it, but I can talk for hours on that. But I mean, if you know someone who is in your family, a friend, your son or daughter, even your mom and dad, that fits that or has talked about it and is interested, I highly encourage just filling out an application. Same spot you go to on the city website, and there's a police department, there's an application. All you have to do is fill it out. You can contact me, you can contact the chief or any of the other lieutenants and sergeants. If you have questions about what the qualifications are, what it takes, what you have to do as far as schooling, we have become more flexible with this kind of stuff as time has gone on. Before it was, in order to apply, you needed to have the academy. You have to be a graduate of it. Now it's, if you're the right person, we're going to send you to the academy. We're going to have your tuition paid for. We're going to pay you hourly to attend the academy. And by the time you're done with the academy, like I said, you've already had your full-time job. You're part of it. It's not an expense. It's not something that your family has to go through as you wait to get your schooling done. So you're going to be working with a great set of individuals. I can honestly say that I enjoy going to work every day. I enjoy the people that I work with. Any minor issues that you might have, we're all adults and we handle those. I mean, that's any workplace, but I can honestly say that, I mean, we are a band of brothers and sisters, and it's great to have this kind of like work family and be part of it. So that's something that you don't always get at every single police department across the country. Beaver Dam's a little bit different, and it starts at the top, and we thank the chief for kind of fostering that type of environment. But if you know someone, please apply. You have to just fill out a brief application, give us a call. You can give me a call at the Beaver Dam Police Department if you have any questions about this. The number is area code 920-887-4613. Once again, that's 887-4613. My extension number is 507. If you know a name, if you are interested yourself, anybody, refer them. And like I said, we do lateral transfers. So if you know someone who's maybe at a police department and they're looking for a change, let us know. And maybe we can have a chat with them and let them know what we can offer them. And hopefully they're interested. So
yeah, a lot of people that are in the field or in another field, just they have a family. They need the wages and the benefits, so that's why we kind of work with them and get them to the academy and take care of that while they're in the academy for them.
Yes,
so.
There's a lot of people out there like me who always thought about it when they were a kid, and then probably
never
told themselves,
made that big jump.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is. They maybe said to themselves like me, this ain't for me. It's too whatever. I can't, or blah blah blah, and made excuses. I finally looked into it and I don't regret it. I don't regret it. It's great. So.
Well, we heard a knock, and I don't know if that was a signal that we have a caller on the line. We have a little bit of a technical problem. The thing that's supposed to be showing that there's a call, we got a timeout problem. So
I'll just keep talking.
It's not updated.
Just keep talking.
If we do have a caller on the line, I want to head to the phones. No call.
No call. All right.
Line, so
where did I leave off? I'm just kidding.
Emergency averted. So that's not the issue. So we were talking about hiring and recruiting here on Community Comments, and you mentioned, Lieutenant, that there were two openings that
correct.
are looking to be filled.
Correct.
So, is there a timeline on when you hope to have those positions?
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
But I mean, if someone. If you want to get your application in the next week would be great. However, I mean, we're always constantly taking applications. We're always looking for the right people. So at any time, but now is the time. You probably have your best chance now if this is what you want to do, just because we have those two openings. So we are highly motivated to fill those openings.
Fantastic.
And we're looking for highly motivated people.
And
Just like you, Jeremiah.
Gee, thank you, Chief. Checks in the mail, boss. Yeah.
And I feel that this is, in terms of a community to work in as a member of the police department, I feel like you couldn't really ask for a better place to do so. I feel like there is a strong supporting and backing from the members of the community here for the police department.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they do really support the work that you guys do, and there obviously there are the one or two people who have a different view of opinion, but as a whole, I feel like this community does everything they can to support the efforts of law enforcement.
Yes.
And I look at
Agreed.
it as a two-way street.
Yeah,
We need
yeah.
the community, they need us, and we just need to work together. And that's big for us. Is I agree with you. We have a lot of support here, a lot of strong support for our police here.
And that's something that we really shouldn't take for granted. You know, it's something that I'm so used to out on the road where people are there to help us and they have our backs and they call and tell us about issues in the community, and we try our best to solve those things, but we don't want to take that for granted. We want to go in every day as police officers and know that community support is vital, and it's something that is precious to us, and we want to do everything to foster that and keep it going.
You bring up fostering and building the community relationships. You know, we joked a little about the pictures and the annual report
Sure.
from all the activities and events and festivities that the police department makes an appearance at, and have the opportunity for the public to come and meet the members of the police department and put a face to the name. And it is so important to go out to those events and ingrain yourself in the community so they know who they are, so the public knows who you are. Because we mentioned it before, a lot of times when police are involved in a situation, it tends to be the worst case scenario
Yeah.
for some people. So
Yep.
having a different side of that really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and that's important to us too. Like we know that when we're knocking on a door, at midnight, that nothing's good happening. And we're not calling to say, oh, by the way, I don't know. You won $1 million. No, it's not happening. Okay, it's hey, we found your lost dog. That actually might be a thing, but it's usually someone died, something illegal happened. There's a problem of some kind. It's bad stuff, So for us to go out there and do things like shop with cops, National Night Out, or just interact with people on a nice, beautiful day like today out in the park, or whatever it might be, we have those positive interactions. That's huge. That makes it worthwhile for us, and I think it's an investment in the community, if you will, for the community members to understand what we do and that we're human beings too.
Exactly. Now, is there a site that people can go to apply or get more information about the openings that are with the Beaver Dam Police Department?
Absolutely. So there's two places that I recommend you go. Once again, we're going to go cityofbeaverdam.com. You go under government, city departments, and then you click on the police department, and then if you go down to the very bottom of the page, there's a link that says employment opportunities, and there it'll explain everything there is involved with it, and have the application right there. You can print it off, drop it off, you can fill it out, type it online, email it to us. Any lieutenant, the chief and deputy chief will obviously take those applications and get them to Lieutenant Reel. He is our recruiting guy in charge of hiring. That's the first place you can go, and then the other place you can go is a place called WileNet.wisconsindoj.gov. So that's WileNet.WIDOJ.gov. You can also probably Google Wisconsin Police or Wisconsin Law Enforcement Employment Opportunities, and I'll bring you up. But it has our starting salary is $4,881 a month. That's starting, and that's entry level, and then it goes up to $6,516 depending on longevity and if it's a lateral transfer. And those are deals that the chief works out. But I mean, those things are available. So if there is a police officer listening, or you know somebody who is a police officer, they're worried about giving up their vacation, or they're worrying about their wages getting destroyed because they've been doing this for 13 years. You get to bring your retirement with you. You get a lateral transfer where we can talk about wages. It's negotiable, and I've seen the chief work with people appropriately for this kind of stuff. So don't be afraid of losing all of that. You're going to have an opportunity to make sure that you're not changing everything financially in your life too.
Now, this is a question I always ask anytime recruitment, hiring comes up in these conversations. And Lieutenant, I asked this question of you multiple times, but now that we have the chief here, I'm going to direct this question to the chief. And that is, what are words of encouragement or words of wisdom that you can pass along to maybe people in school still who are entertaining the idea of entering into a career in law enforcement? And what's the final nudge that you would give to them to commit to?
I always say to my officers, say to the public, and to say to everyone, you got to like to be around people, and you got to be a people person. You just got to care and want to be around people. And if you have that foundation of character that I look for, we could teach you all the rest. We'll get you through all the rest. We could talk about what your situation is, and we can work through that. If you have that foundation, it's like building a house or anything else. You have to have that foundation, and all the rest will come from there. So that's what you really look for. Because if you don't want to, because you're going to be dealing with problems that aren't yours or someone else, you got to be able to deal with people and talk to people and interact with people and help them the best that you can. Some calls we go on have nothing to do with law enforcement, but we're there to help them. We're there to give them guidance and get them in the right direction. So it's all about that. So that would be my thing with people is you have to like that. You have to like to be around people and deal with them.
Yeah. I think that, to echo that, sitting through job interviews, being around people, I don't know, it's going to sound bad. I don't know. Get off your phones, kids. Get out there and talk with people.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because if you can't hold a conversation, you're going to come off that you don't like to be around people. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to keep that conversation going, and just that communication skill. It's huge. And
it's a skill that we take for granted, I feel like, nowadays.
Yes, yeah. And it's hard because, I mean, you're in high school, you're worried about all your classes, and this is how you communicate with friends, but when we're in law enforcement, you're knocking on someone's door, you're in their house, you are in their life, and you're not going to be able to text it. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to block someone in this job because you don't want to deal with the problem. You have to address that problem. It is our commitments, it's our job, it's our sworn oath. So, I mean, that's something where you can't run away from a problem. So you can't, if you have that nervousness, if you're growing up and you're going into college and you're in that end of high school, this, not just in police, but just in life in general, that skill of learning how to talk with people and effectively communicate and not running away from your problems, if you will, whatever that is a huge skill that people need to learn. And that will get you closer to being a cop someday if that's what you want to do. So, in my opinion, that's what I see in the interviews. Yep.
I can see you have been practicing that.
He's my first hire, by the way, just so you know.
I don't shut up. I don't shut up.
I was his first.
If you ask him, it's all downhill since.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Get me out of here. Yeah.
Again, we're chatting with the Beaver Dam Police Department here on Community Comment. We're joined with Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson, Police Chief John Kreitziger. A little bit earlier in the program, we also mentioned a little bit tied into the call that we got earlier, ATV, UTV ordinance, and that ordinance was adopted last fall. It really didn't take into effect until the late fall, early winter months. So
yes.
Really now is the first time that's been in place, that it's warm out, more
Correct.
UTVs will most likely be hitting the streets. And what are the things that we want the public to remember before that starts to uptick here?
Absolutely. So we now have seen ATVs and UTVs out because the weather's nice, like you said.
Yeah.
So we have now seen an increase in traffic stops with ATVs and UTVs. And guess what? It's not equipment. It's not the improper stuff. It's people driving crazy with these things. Okay, so they're hot rodding, and that's a problem. We have a specific ordinance that we adopted for ATVs and UTVs called disorderly conduct with a motor vehicle. That's people who squeal the tires on purpose, fishtail, honking the horns, driving recklessly. Those are all things that you cannot do on an ATV and UTV. And the reason why you can't, well, first of all, you shouldn't do it in any vehicle, but if you're on an ATV, you don't have a roll cage, okay? You don't have a seat belt. If you're lucky and smart, you're wearing a helmet, okay? When you get into an accident because you lose control of a car, those cars are specifically designed with, crash and crumple zones and seat belts and airbags. You don't have this stuff on an ATV and UTV, okay? So that's why when we see that, when there are people who are choosing to operate motor vehicles, ATVs, UTVs, inappropriately and dangerously, we have to. It's our job to address that. So we're starting to see that now. We're starting to get concerned citizens seeing this out in the community and calling it in. So just a reminder, everyone, please follow the rules of the road, maintain a safe and reasonable control of your vehicle, especially the ATVs and UTVs. So that's what we're seeing. So, and we did expect this to happen. We knew that was going to happen. And unfortunately, we are going to have some strict law enforcement action on that. We are going to be writing tickets when appropriate. So simply because we would rather write that ticket than have to load somebody in the back of an ambulance to the emergency room or fight for life because they weren't wearing a helmet or anything like that. We just don't want that. That's not what the ordinance is for. It was to go out and enjoy another means of getting around town. So.
Yeah, and one thing that I know we have mentioned on community comment in the past is that if somebody has maybe some questions or they don't know if this is something that they can do on an ATV, UTV or not, reach out to the police department, and you guys can help them guide through those questions, walk them through those questions, and figure out what's the correct way to operate these vehicles.
Yeah, a lot of the UTV, ATV clubs want to help us too.
Yes.
They've been helping us educate people.
100%.
And I have a lot of answers for us because most of the people that ride them and are in the city want to do what's right. They want to do the right thing. They have the right intentions of doing things right, and they want to make sure they get it right. And so these UTV clubs have reached out to me, and they educate, they help us, they do the same thing. So they want everybody to follow the rules just like we do too. So,
as a general rule of thumb, if you are following the rules that you would follow if you were a car, it's the same rules for the ATVs and UTVs. That's the number one thing I can say. So, I mean, you got to follow all the rules of the road. You have to have a driver's license, not an ATV certificate that you get through the state of Wisconsin. You still need that in addition, but you need a driver's license, a real deal driver's license as well. You need to have insurance on it. And like I said, all the stuff that you need to drive on the road as a normal car, if you're doing that, you're going to be okay on an ATV and UTV.
except for hours of operation.
Oh, yeah, that too.
That's
Yeah,
the only
there
one.
are special exceptions. You're right.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
few.
yeah.
That's one
Yeah.
of them. That
Yeah.
if we see a violation, it's usually that one after hours.
I believe the hours of operation 11 p.m. to 4 a.m.
That is correct.
I believe.
Yep, you hit it right on the head.
Between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., you cannot be out on the city
Correct.
streets.
Correct.
Driving ATV, UTV.
So that's different than a car. So
Yep.
Yeah.
That's one big difference.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
there's a big difference. Yeah, correct.
we
Yeah,
have to walk
yeah.
everywhere at that
Yeah.
time. We only have a few minutes left here on a community comment. With that time, I just want to give that an opportunity for the police department here to talk about crosswalks. I know it's
yeah.
another thing that as temperatures get a bit warmer, more people will be walking out on city streets. But what do we want to hit on this topic?
Sure. Long story short is just a reminder to everyone who's driving out there, if you see someone in a crosswalk and they have established themselves in there, we're not talking about issues where someone juts out in front of you. That's sudden pedestrian movement in the traffic, can't do that. But if you have someone who is in a crosswalk, they have the right of way. You do have to yield to them. You should stop, allow them to cross, and then continue on. So not only that, but if you have someone who is at a crosswalk and they are at the edge and they're about to step into the road, indicating that they want to cross, that is another time to slow down, yield, stop, allow them to cross, and hopefully they look both ways. It's funny. It's funny. A little story here. I try to be the best driver I can because, I mean, you're a cop and you got to know the rules of the road.
To a
So
higher standard is
correct. So the other day I stopped for someone who was about to cross in the crosswalk, and they wave at me, I wave at them, they start crossing, and then the traffic coming the opposite direction did not stop. Ended up doing a traffic stop on that, but it's one of those things where it's just like if everybody on the road is on the same kind of awareness, that's going to reduce those types of accidents. And that could have been really bad. Sure. And I was worried because I'm like, I hope the pedestrian didn't think I was waving them through like it was safe, because law enforcement officers like, hi, and instead of like, you can cross, like
Yep.
directing traffic, if
Yep.
you will. So yeah, that could have been really bad. But that's one of those things that we're kind of seeing, and officers had brought this to our attention to talk about during community comment, is to make sure that we are yielding the right of way to pedestrians as they are about to cross, and if they are in the crosswalk, that they have to yield.
Especially kids.
Yeah, and that's we can
so
talk
important.
about.
No one wants to have anybody hit a kid, and we all want to, do what's right for them and allow them to cross. Because they're unpredictable sometimes,
Yes.
and they don't always think, and they're not. All, they do things suddenly, so it doesn't hurt to stop and allow them to cross.
Right.
Even if they're on the sidewalk, they're going to cross, so just stop and allow them to cross.
Especially when school's getting let out. That tends to be a
Yes.
real hot
They'll go there to middle
topic.
school when
Exactly.
school's letting out.
Yeah.
That's really bad up there sometimes,
Correct.
in the morning and after, especially afternoons when you get all the kids coming across the street to go to the bus, and parents are trying to pick up their kids in the area, and that congestion in that whole area is just terrible.
Yeah, and that's why we have crossing guards, and that's another thing I was going to hit on as well. If you have a crossing guard and they are presenting their stop sign, stop, okay? Regardless if someone is actually in that crosswalk, if you have the stop sign with the crossing guard, you got to stop, okay? There are times where, we'll get calls from crossing guards. They will get your license plate, and they will call it in, and we will go and investigate and issue citations if it's necessary, when there are people not yielding the right of way. So it's just something to keep in mind of, watch those school zones, watch the speed, 15 miles an hour when children are present. So especially in the morning, especially in the afternoon when schools get in and out, watch for the crossing guards. And hopefully if you are doing 15 miles an hour, like you should be able to stop pretty quickly, So that's what I have for you. It looks like we got a call.
We do, yeah. It's 11th hour getting in here on the phones here. I want
Right
to,
at the buzzer.
Right at the buzzer. Let's head to the phones and say welcome to Community Comment.
Hey, Kevin, Jeremiah, how's it going?
Hello.
How are you, Rich?
Long time no talk.
Kevin, not Kevin. Jeremiah just started talking about something that affects me, so I had to call in.
Okay. All right.
You were talking about cars having the right of way in a crosswalk. Well, of course, out by Quick Trip on Madison Street, you're crossing over either from Dollar General to Quick Trip or Quick Trip to Dollar General. There's no crosswalk. Even bigger, when I'm walking from the YMCA out to Walmart, I'm crossing by the stop and go lights there. There's no crosswalk. Who has the right of way?
Well, when you are attempting to cross as a pedestrian and there is not a crosswalk, please be very careful when you do. Look both ways before crossing. And then once you are established in that roadway and you are crossing the street, you have the right of way as a pedestrian. So you cannot jump out in front of a car. You can't stop traffic and run out in front of them. But if you are crossing the road at a corner during an intersection, an intersection setting, and you're doing that appropriately, that means you have the right of way if you're already established in that roadway.
Okay, here's a follow-up question to that, and this would pertain from coming from the YMCA out to Walmart.
I think we need sidewalks and crosswalks marked up there. That's my opinion, and I think if what you're going to ask is the best way to do that is we got to maybe talk with the city council to see if that's something we can add.
Well, that's not what I was going to bring up. That's a very good point. But the lights they stay green longer if you're coming from Quick Trip heading towards Walmart that way. If I'm going from YMCA to Walmart, the lights aren't green as long because I sat there or stood there and timed it. So I only got 30 seconds to get across that entire walkway. I can only get to the middle strip. I got to stand there on the middle strip. Now, some cars are nice enough to stop, and then even though the light is red, I will go the rest of the way. Other cars will honk at me and just go out right in front of me. So I'm, in a precarious situation there.
All right. Yeah, I guess the timing of that particular green light there is kind of key. I did not realize it was only 30 seconds, but it does. It's one of those things that does make sense because that traffic is not as heavy going that direction than the other way. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, and it doesn't give anybody that's trying to walk across much time. I mean, a crosswalk would help,
Sure.
but then maybe people have to stop, but they still may not because they're like, hey, he's walking through a red light.
Right.
So, is my best bet to stand there on that little middle strip there until the light changes green again when I can only get halfway across? I mean, if there's not a lot of traffic, I will keep walking if the light's red.
Sure.
If there's no cars coming.
So
Now, is that illegal for me to do that, or do I need to stay on that strip?
So with the traffic lights, so this is a response to the drivers that might be going through that particular intersection. A green light means proceed if the intersection is clear. It does not mean blindly drive through the intersection as fast as you want without looking. It is proceed if the intersection is clear. So if there is a pedestrian that is established in the roadway, they do have the right of way. And granted, you should not proceed into that intersection, Rich, as a pedestrian if you have a red light. But if you see that yellow light coming, that means clear the intersection, try to get there as quickly as you can. But, I can talk about the law until I'm blue in the face. There's what is supposed to happen, and then there's the reality. So you have to ask the question of, is it safe for me to continue? And I think that's what we're talking about here is like that little island that you get to finish that halfway through. Is that a safe thing to do? Probably. It's okay for you to be there. I wish there was enough time for you to fully cross, but it may not be the reality of the situation. So I would say, Rich, if you're 3/4 of the way,
that light turns green, and I can only make it to the middle. And like I said, if there's hardly any traffic or cars stop for me, I will continue walking. Otherwise, I stand there and wait for the light to turn green again, and it's standing there for a while.
Understood. Yeah, and you understand that you do have the right of way there. I would highly encourage you to try to get across when it's safe to do so. Obviously, I don't want to have you risk yourself.
Even if it's red halfway, right?
Yeah, if you're not clear of the intersection and the light turns red, get to the nearest part that is clear. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm never all the way through and the light is turning red.
It's the same thing with a car that's stuck in the middle of the intersection and they have a yellow light. They're already in there, and that means clear out. And then if the light turns red, they got to get out as soon as they can because that green light's coming on the other direction.
Well,
Same
when
thing.
Becky was mayor, she even pointed out that there's more people going to be living in that area because of all the new houses and everything coming up. And she thought there needed to be a crosswalk there too or something.
Yeah, we can't forget that there's people in our community that are walking to these businesses and not driving, and it's something that I think we need to address. Keep in mind, it's budget, it's money, and we got to spend the taxpayer money wisely.
There's not as many people walking in that area, but there are still people walking in that area. I see skateboarders in that area, bicyclists.
Correct. Yep, absolutely.
So anything that you can do to help would be a positive.
Well, if I am asked my opinion, you obviously know what my opinion is. I think it's time to put some crossing lights for the pedestrians, crosswalks marked, and some sidewalks. That's me. That's my opinion. However, how we're going to get that money from, that's that one.
It's other people's decisions.
Yeah,
when it comes to
elected
But
officials.
at least you can bring it up and get something started.
Sure, absolutely. And I can only offer my opinion as a law enforcement officer.
That's a good one, though.
Absolutely, I agree.
And it goes the same with out by Quick Trip there, too. If someone's starting to walk across, the cars need to stop, even though there's no crosswalk.
Yeah, but same rules apply. Yep.
Yeah, because initially when they painted all them turning lines out there, for turning left, turning right, Becky had said she thought that they were going to paint a crosswalk in there, too. And they wouldn't have taken much because they were out there painting the road already, but they never painted a crosswalk.
The one at the intersection of North Spring Street and County Highway B, or Gateway Drive, same name, that one is not in the city of Beaver Dam. That's actually a county intersection. That's outside.
And
So-
I know the one out by Quick Trip is Town of Beaver Dam.
Right.
But they were painting, the turn left, turn right lanes, and they could have easily just added, a couple more lines for crosswalk.
That would have been nice. I agree.
Yes. So anyway, anything you guys can do would be appreciated, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that experiences this, especially out on Madison Street.
Agreed.
A lot of
Agreed.
people walking in the street.
Agreed. And thank you for calling.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a nice day, guys.
Absolutely.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the phone call. I'm sure that's a conversation we'll have when if we can get when the city administrator's on the program next month, or,
Yes.
or we get the mayor back on. That's something that maybe we can bring up at that point and see if there's any ground that can be made up on getting that done.
Yeah.
So
And there's a lot of traffic through there, and there are people walking all the time because and nothing's stopping them from doing it. Pedestrians, they're going to walk. We have to yield.
that's right. Well, better safe than sorry.
Yes, correct.
Better safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
On that note, I want to thank our guests here on the Community Comment this afternoon. Again, we're joined with members of the Beaver Dam Police Department. We have Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson and Chief John Kreitziger. Thank you guys both so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.
And that will do
Thank
it
you.
for today's Community Comment.